So how do we know that humans are causing climate change rather than a natural phenomenon? Well, there is some merit to thinking like detectives on this one. Say police officers have arrived at the scene of a particularly nasty case of vandalism, but it appears the person who did it skipped out on vandalism 101. Wear gloves. And so there are fingerprints everywhere. Now, just like detectives might then use those fingerprints and try to match them up with those of known suspects, scientists are using fingerprints of a different kind when trying to find the culprit behind our changing climate. And luckily for us, our culprit has been just as reckless, leaving evidence everywhere. We have things like changes in our surface temperature, atmosphere, and oceans, but the key is that they've changed in a particular way, spelling out a pattern, and that pattern is our fingerprint. Now, one of the patterns that makes up our so-called climate change fingerprint is that of heating of the Earth's atmosphere. Different cause has a different pattern. And in recent years, we've seen warming of the lower atmosphere and cooling of the upper atmosphere. And this unique pattern of warming is going to help us rule out some suspects. So our first potential suspect is that of an increase in the sun's output. So the sun's output does vary, but with the speed of light being 300,000 kilometers per second, you tend not to worry too much about different heights in the atmosphere. And what's an extra 10 kilometers at that speed? So an increase in the sun's output would cause the entirety of the Earth's atmosphere to get warmer. And that means the sun is out because it doesn't match what we've observed. So our next potential suspect is that of increased CO2 in our atmosphere. So carbon dioxide, or CO2, does naturally exist in our atmosphere, but there is a lot more of it there than there used to be. And because carbon dioxide absorbs radiation reflected by the Earth and then re-emits it, and because of how much of it there is in our lower atmosphere, less radiation is being reflected into the upper atmosphere, resulting in warming of the lower atmosphere and cooling of the upper atmosphere. And this is the pattern that we are looking for. But there are still a couple of CO2 emitting processes that could be to blame here. Volcanic eruptions, for example, throw up enormous amounts of gas. But there are a series of processes that produce 100 times this amount, and they can be neatly wrapped up into one lovely greenhouse gas emitting package. So what's the culprit? Human activities. So we've done all this fingerprinting trying to find the culprit behind this vandalism of planetary proportions that is climate change, and we found that it's us. But I think there's something very empowering about knowing that it's us. If there was some sort of natural process that we couldn't control causing our climate to change, then we would to some extent be powerless to stop it. But because we've caused it, it's still within our power to change it.